What a waste of time! This feels special. Fusion! Ha! I am neither Goku nor Vegeta. I'm the guy who's going to stop you.
Alright guys, what's going on? It's your boy Eisen DBL back with another Dragon Ball Legends video, and today we're going to be making a tier list on the after party meta for the 6th anniversary of Dragon Ball Legends. To begin with, I think what we should talk about is that this list is going to be considering both Proud Mode and the normal PvP mode, as they're both run side by side right now, and it's very easy to abuse Proud Mode to get into like the godly ranks and the higher ranks. So I think it's good to consider which teams are good in both, because the community can benefit a lot from that, especially the people that struggle to get into the higher ranks. So you could really just cheese the hell out of Proud Mode and get it. Other than that, we're going to be considering everybody at 14 stars so that we can all kind of just avoid the whole discussion of like, oh, what if XXX happens, you know? So we're just going to consider everybody at 14 stars to make it easy and simple. And other than that, the way I like to do my list is if the unit is in the tier by themselves, they are gapping everybody under them. But if they're like 2 units in the same thing and they're numbered together, they're interchangeable and you guys can put them however you like. To begin with, let's get this out of the way. Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, my GOAT, my absolute favorite unit in the game. He's number 1. I don't think there needs to be much said about that. He has a Rising Rush built into his kit that's guaranteed. And he's just an overall very phenomenal unit. Has very high damage percentages, very solid gauge, very good mechanics. So I don't think there's much to be said about Ultra SSJ4 Gogeta besides he is just the god of the game and there's nothing else to it. After Ultra SSJ4 Gogeta, this is where I think my list differs from a few people. I think that Gogeta Blue is the second best unit in the game right now. However, I also think that you can argue that Super Vegito can be higher than him. So I personally, the way I see them both is that you can put both of them however you see. I say they're interchangeable, and the reason I personally think that Gogeta is better is because I feel like Gogeta's value has just gone up throughout the anniversary. These new units that have come out have benefited him a lot. The new mechanics that have come out have benefited him a lot. Him being the only way you can actually not have to deal with UG4's gauge is pretty nice. And obviously his value also decreases a little bit because now Gohan and UI are pretty much extinct. But that doesn't stop him from stopping the best unit in the game. He is the best counter for UG4. But on the same note, Super Vegito having a guaranteed rush is very huge. And the fact that for that guaranteed rush to kill, you don't need to like Zenkai buff him or anything. You kind of just got to run optimal equips and a good team. And Super Vegito will just kill somebody when he rushes. There is a little bit of caveat to that though, now that we have Omega in the mix, because Omega is making it harder for Vegito to get that rush, because Omega can just come in and be like, nuh-uh. But, you know, it's still a very solid mechanic and it's still very good. Omega's not enough to dethrone Vegito from being in that 3 spot for me. I think Vegito still does a lot. And while Omega is a very good addition to the game, I don't think he's completely walling out these guys. And he's not like nuking these guys. If anything, these guys are doing more damage to him than he's doing to them. That kind of stuff. As well as the fact that Proud Mode Fusions and Normal Mode Fusions are both probably just the best teams in the game. There really isn't much to it. And even if you think Omega is better, Omega fits on the Fusion team. So you don't really have much to be afraid of there. But that's pretty much all I have to say about these 2 units being here. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. After that, I do think Gohan still maintains the 4th slot by himself. Because the thing with Ultimate Gohan is his value has only gone up with the Omega release coming out. Because when Omega drops, it's like, okay, I'm going to pop his Indestructible with Gohan, and then I'm just going to main, and somebody's dead. His ultimate is still an absolute nuclear monster, and it's the perfect counter for Indestructible, because Indestructible is not sealing his main ability. If it sealed his main ability, then it would be harder, but because it does not, it's just, you pop Indestructible, you pop main, someone's dead. That's just how it goes. Unless they have like a UG4 gauge sitting in the back, but that's where you got to consider like your playstyle and using that to outplay the opponent. But I do think he still holds down that spot. He has very good teams. Majin Buu Saga is phenomenal in Proud Mode and Normal Mode. And even outside of that, he also still, even though he doesn't have access to Ultra Gohan anymore, that guy's pretty much gone out of the meta. He is still getting access to now being leadered on these blast setups with Kid Buu, Shenron, Rage Shenron. And also you can run him like Super 17 on like a Blast GT with Gohan leader. And even without Zenkai buffs, this Gohan just does amazingly well right now. We'll see how well he does off of boost, because that is a big question, is how well is he going to hold up after boost. But I think he's still going to do pretty well, and we'll see how that ages out. For the 5th slot, we're going to have the first new entry into the list. This is where we're going to have Mr. Omega Glazer, Mr. Riz Shenron himself, the ultimate Rizzler. I think that Omega Shenron holds this spot down mainly just due to his indestructible. Like, no brainer, if he didn't have the indestructible, it would be not even a stretch to say that he wouldn't be top 10. But indestructible is a very, very strong mechanic to have, because it's basically the same thing as Golden Frieza, where it's one of the only ways you can deny people like a rush without having to actually lose a value or have a unit that's weaker from the start. Like, revivals are very good for anti-rush, but the whoa, let's not deal with that. All right, we don't need that. Should have muted the top, my fault. But Omega Shenron having not be a gimped unit from the start of the battle like Pycon or Orange Piccolo, whose base forms, quite frankly, are like bottom 100, versus Omega, who's pretty much a top 5 unit throughout the whole match, including his indestructible, of course, is a very big difference. It's the same thing with Golden Frieza. Like, Golden Frieza does get a little bit better post his comeback, but he's still absolutely phenomenal before he hits that comeback mechanic, which is why I think he is still securing this spot, as well as the team access he has. He's pretty much on all the top tier teams. GT's a very, very dominant Proud Mode team now. Fusions is still a very dominant Proud Mode team. You can slot him in on a blast setup with Majin Buu Saga or PO, and then run him in Proud Mode on that as well, or normal mode. And overall, he just has very good stuff. The only thing this guy really lacks right now is a good Zenkai buffer. All of his Zenkai buffers are practically double defense, and that's just not a good thing to have. Double defense doesn't really scale well in the game. It's kind of the same thing this guy is having an issue with. He doesn't have any good Zenkai buffers. All of his Zenkai buffers are like 1-stat units. Especially if you look at the gap between the Zenkai buffers these top 3 have access to versus what these 2 have access to. It's a very big marginal gap. With that being said, that's where we're going to have Omega Shenron, Mr. Riz Master himself, coming in at number 5 and entering the Dragon Ball Legends meta. After that, we're going to have another joint place of 6 and 7. Might be controversial, but I think we pretty much have gotten to the point where this is a fair argument now. And that is going to be Mr. Where is he? Mr. CMZ. But he is not number 6. I'm going to have CMZ at 7, but I do think you can interchange them. The actual number 6 unit is going to be Mr. Legends Limited Kid Buu himself. I think, personally, prior to the after party, I would have probably had CMZ like somewhere up here, like you could interchange him with Gohan. But post after party, this guy is an absolute demon because of the support and damage and cover that this guy gets from not only this guy, but also from this guy. This guy makes Kid Buu go absolutely nuclear. The passive support as well as the active support and the paralysis playing with Kid Buu's constant vanish and everything, it flows super well. We're gonna do a video on that. We're gonna do Kid Buu, Rage Shenron, Omega Shenron. It is an absolutely phenomenal setup that you can run, and on that setup, Kid Buu really shows why his damage is just absolutely out of the freaking world. He literally just 3 blast cards people like it's an average occurrence. And he was kind of doing that prior as well, before the after party, but the thing was, before the after party, he wasn't as safe because you had to run Booga, and once UG4 dropped, it was like, okay, Booga exists, but if I catch your Kid Buu, I'm just gonna ult, and one of your units on your team is dead. And after Kid Buu's gone, it's just like, alright, man. Or Booga's gone, it's like, okay. So it gets a lot harder to deal with, and Kid Buu is still in a good spot, but now he's in a much better spot because he has access to indestructible and he has access to a broken support right here. Because Bugha is a very good support, but Bugha is not a broken support, I would say. But that's why I think Kid Buu has jumped up to the number 6 spot now. And CMZ, I think, drops down because Kid Buu goes up, since he completely melts through CMZ. And before that, it was only like Vegito that CMZ had to worry about. But now he's having a lot more matchups where it's like there's a very dominant blue, and the moment CMZ gets touched, he gets obliterated. He does heal a lot, but you're basically forced to sacrifice another unit to potentially a rush or a nuclear blue card or a nuclear ult to protect your CMZ. And that situation does happen a lot. But that's why I think that we are in the position where CMZ and Kid Buu are interchangeable, and why CMZ has overall dropped in the meta. He's still absolutely phenomenal. He does a lot of damage, but there's a lot less Saiyans now that these guys are out, and a lot less Saiyans kind of does decrease CMZ's value, and there's a lot of buff canceling, and just a lot of units that can just melt through CMZ. If he gets fainted by Omega, it's kind of just wraps for him, that kind of stuff. Paralyzed by Rate Shenron, you know, it hurts. It hurts a lot. Other than that, moving on to the next spot, we are going to have another joint rank of 8 to 9. And this is also could be controversial. We're going to have El Bebe at number 8 here, if we can find him, because finding him is apparently harder than finding Mars. There you are, buddy. We're going to have El Baby at number 8. Baby's phenomenal in the meta. His gauge is very good. He has access to very good Zenkai buffers. He's on one of the best Proud and normal mode teams in the game, being GT. He can also splash onto Saiyans. And he's also on PO. It's just a lot of good stuff going for Baby. I personally just don't like Baby that much, but I do think he does hold down that number 8 spot for now. Not much to say about him. His gauge is very good still, and his color is very good. He can snipe people. You just gotta have the thing with Baby is very easy to mess up with Baby, because if you don't have good gauge usage, Baby sucks. But if you have good gauge usage, Baby can usually cook, as long as you're not getting like 3 shot by CMZ, 1 shot by UG4, destroyed by Super Vegito, and stuff like that. But obviously there's situations where every unit struggles. After El Baby, we have Mr. Ultra Golden Frieza, which I think is a little controversial. He's a little on the lower end here. But I think that the problem with Ultra Golden Frieza isn't as much his kit anymore. I think his kit still holds up really well. But Ultra Golden Frieza does not have really a solid setup right now. Ultra Golden Frieza is looking at PO and movies for like his 2 main homes where he can shine. Movies is not very good in Proud, so you're only going to really be running that in normal mode. Because movies in Proud, it should be better on paper than it is, because you can run Pan as an active fighter, and she'll give you HP as well as being a good support in the fight. But the problem is that movies ultras don't get their ultra abilities on there. So that's one thing, is the ultras get limited. And then outside of the ultras, like their 1% and LFs, it's like you're looking at Godku, low. And you're looking at Beast Gohan, who's still very good, but he's aged. Especially without a Zenkai buff, which is what you're going to be running him in on Proud, and it's just not good, man. Gogeta Blue is still absolutely phenomenal, but on movies, he's not going to be getting as much juice, especially if you're doing Proud mode. You could probably still make it work on a normal PvP setup, but Proud mode, you're kind of just screwed completely. And then when you look over at PO, it's like you see CMZ, Baby, and Frieza, and then after that, what, like Blue Broly, you know? It's like Strike, like Ultra Rose, Ultra Hit, like these guys are all not the greatest anymore, you know? So I don't think that PO Strike is really going to be holding up that well right now, which is why I think Golden Frieza lowers a bit, especially because he also does need a Zenkai buff to really function right now. Golden Frieza without a Zenkai buff, save yourself the misery. Don't do it. You might as well be running Godku. I'm exaggerating if anybody didn't pick that up, but that's, I think, all my thoughts on Golden Frieza. We don't need to talk too much about that, I think. But if you guys do have any questions, make sure to leave a comment and we can talk about it in the comment section. To finish out the list, at number 10, I think is where Mr. Rate Shenron belongs. Rate Shenron is an absolutely phenomenal unit. I personally would honestly even have him higher. I think Rate Shenron can look anywhere between where Omega Shenron is. You could have Rate Shenron looking like he's up here, and you can already Shenron looking like he's not even here, and he's like over here. Because the thing with this unit, he does a lot of stuff and a lot of good stuff. His support is amazing, his paralyze is very useful, his kit is very good. But the thing about units that have paralysis is that they're very inconsistent, because paralysis isn't like guaranteed to go off. So while this guy is very good, when we've had matches where you don't get the paralysis, and it's like, oh, I'm basically in a 2v3, and it's like the support is nice, but it's not enough to justify like the fact that this guy's defense is horrible, absolutely horrible defense, because they shafted his stats. So his defense isn't very good. He does have a good amount of healing, but his defense isn't very good, so he does get melted through, especially when you're fighting people like CMZ. He gets one shot obviously by UG4. Gogeta Blue can melt through him. Like everybody in the top 10 is like melting through him. But when he does get the paralysis, he is very, very strong. Gets you free priorities. Support makes you just absolutely nuke. So he, I think, does hold down that number 10 spot, but he can be inconsistent. But I think on an average basis, he's looking like a number 10 unit in the game. After that placement, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of the honorable mentions. I do think this guy still makes it into the honorable mention. I didn't even know this guy was in the game, to be honest. Super 17, I think, is back in the honorable mentions. You can maybe even argue him in the top 10 somewhere. I could definitely see that. Universal Spirit Bomb, still a very good unit. Shin, you could see a lot of in Proud as well with Majin Buu Saga. And I think the other one I kind of want to throw in there is going to be Ultra Omega. I think Ultra Omega is very underappreciated right now. Ultra Omega is a very good unit in my opinion with his plat. Yeah, him being able to buff cancel on ultimates and stuff is very useful. And I can't find him. Ultra Omega, there he is. I think Ultra Omega is very underappreciated. He does a phenomenal amount of damage. Like absolutely, like I've had him two-shot these guys. I've had him two-shot this guy. Like he just completely nukes damage-wise nowadays. And him being able to cancel buffs on ult's very good against UG4 as well. So I think overall Ultra Omega does have pretty good value. You can put him on honorable mention. Other than that, a couple units you could try to use that could work. I don't want to put UI in there. I don't think UI really holds up anymore. I think UI can't really snipe most of these guys, and these guys do a lot more damage than he does. And UI setup is also very much so in the dirt now because Gohan is dead. If Gohan was still in the meta, then UI could still be used, but like this guy being gone just completely made this guy not matter. Thank God, because that was the most toxic team I've ever fought. But I think that's why I just don't even have UI in the top 10 or honorable mentions. I don't think he really fits. You could still try to use Nappa Vegeta if you want, or like Pycon and Orange Piccolo if you want to revive. Ultra Vegeta Blue's been getting some traction with the red purple setup with CMZ, G4, and Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. If you guys want to try that out, that's pretty good. You can get some cheeky wins with that one. But other than that, I don't see much else that it's like worth putting on there or even worth mentioning. But yeah, this is what we're looking like for the after part of the 3rd anniversary. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. This is your boy Eyes and DBL, signing out.